Hey everyone, Blue Kibo here. Today I'm going to talk about a very useful, very important, very secure password manager called KeePass. This is the password manager that I use myself. I'm going to go over in detail of how to download it, how to set it up, but also I'll talk a little bit about why I think this is the best password manager, the most secure password manager out there. So what is KeePass? Well, like a lot of password managers, it's a place where you can store your passwords. And the good thing is all you have to remember is one long password that you set in the beginning. And then you can just use the software to create passwords for all your other websites. And you can just log in, get the password you want, and paste it into wherever you're logging in. So what's good about KeePass? Why am I talking about KeePass and not some other password manager out there? Well, first of all, KeePass is open source, and you can see right here it says OSI certified. I use KeePass because I like to support the open source software. That's my one of the reasons. That means you can go online, you can look at the code, you can look at the entire source code. There's nothing hidden from you. If you're a security expert, a cybersecurity expert, you can check the implementation of the security on your own. But if you're not, then you can rely on other people in other companies and industries that have checked KeePass in the past, and I'll go over that a little bit later on. So what's the difference between KeePass and something that is in the cloud? So some password managers store your passwords in the cloud, so they do an encryption locally generally, and then they send the password to the cloud where then you can use it from an app on your phone, or you can just log in from the browser and then have all your passwords right there. Now, I don't like those types of passwords because they can get hacked, there's more ways they can go wrong, and a lot of them are not open source, which means I don't know what the company is doing with the passwords. I don't know how they're treating them, how they're encrypting them, whether they're using the strongest encryption out there, whether their implementation of the encryption is correct. And then there's more issues when you go into the browser aspect. They have browser extensions that you use. Well, there are a lot of things that can go wrong with the browser extension. Maybe the password manager is doing everything correctly, but there are some issues in the browser extension, and then some security risk can happen there. And that was what recently happened with one of the major cloud password managers out there. So KeePass is completely offline, which means everything is done on your own computer. Everything is local, and you can store the file anywhere you want. You can even put it on Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox or wherever you want on a USB drive. It's an encrypted file. It's very small, kilobytes in size generally, and whenever you need it, you can just open it using KeePass, get the password you want, and then you close it, and it's locked again. So there is no other third company that you need to trust in this case to manage your passwords. So the cloud aspect of it is on you. So you can create the cloud aspect by uploading your KeePass file into the cloud, and then you can have access to it from there. Or if you want, you can keep it entirely on your computer locally, and that way nothing can go wrong unless someone has access to your computer, in which case it's not your computer anymore. Well, let's look at the awards of KeePass. Right here on the side it says awards. KeePass has been around for a very long time. It's a very robust program. I've used it for at least the past 5 or 6 years, and I've been very happy. And I have donated to the maker of KeePass in the past. You can donate as well here if you like it right here, but it's completely free. You don't have to pay anything to use it. It's an open source program, freely available for you to use. Well, on these awards here, right here, the most important one, in my opinion, is this one right here, the EUFOSSA project. I followed this project when it was going on in 2016, if I remember correctly, 2017, end of 16. This program was by the European Union. It was a commission to audit free and open source software. And they had a little voting thing they opened up, and they asked people what software they wanted them to audit. So they're a very, very reliable company. They had a lot of funding from the European Union to do this. And the program that won that, I think they picked two, but the main one that won that audit request from people was KeePass. So they audited KeePass, and you can read the entire report they have on it. No security issues were found, no major security issues. Even the little ones that they found weren't really security issues, were just improvements that they suggested. And as far as I know, the KeePass maker, Dominic, has already updated those. But you can see it right here if you'd like. Here's the European Commission Free and Open Source Software Auditing Project. And you can read the entire summary of KeePass right here, the entire code review. They reviewed the entire code source of KeePass. And they talked to Dominic directly to have him fix whatever issues they found. And they didn't find any security issues. So here it is. This is the project. And then this is the entire review that they did of KeePass. And it's a pretty long document, but you can, if you'd like, you can go into it and see it. So pretty much everything went well. So they looked at multiple categories. So little things that needed adjustment have already been adjusted. There was no security issues, which all that means is that KeePass has been audited. That sets it apart from a lot of other open source password managers out there. There are some others that also have the cloud aspect and the offline aspect, and they are open source, but they are young. They are not at the level of KeePass yet, so they haven't been audited. They haven't been around long enough to get all the bugs out and get all the security issues out of the way. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's go into KeePass, let's download it, and I'm going to go over all the details of how to use it and how to set it up correctly, or at least the way I do it. So if you go under here, KeePass downloads on the left side, it looks like there's multiple versions. There isn't. The one that you want is KeePass 2.XX. You don't want KeePass 1.XX. They're a bit different, but they still maintain both of them for compatibility issues and so forth. But this is the newest one. So the portable version on the right, that's if you want to download it on a USB drive, for example. And that way, if you're plugging your USB drive into some public computer that you don't have access to install a software, you can still open your passwords from there. Whereas the installer on the left, that is the software that you use on your own computer. So let's go ahead and download the software right here. Alright, so the software has downloaded, so let's close this and open the folder. So my computer today is a bit slow because I am running a virtual machine to demonstrate this, just to have a clean setup. So here's the file. It's called KeePass 2.38. That is the latest version of KeePass. So we're going to go ahead and download it. So I'm going to point out the way I set up KeePass, and I'm going to go into detail about everything that I do when I set it up. So one thing to keep in mind is make sure you download it from the correct website, right? Go to keepass.info. Don't download it from any other site that might look like KeePass. So make sure that the file is signed by Dominic Reichel, who is the maker of KeePass. Okay, let's go, and we're gonna say accept, next. Yeah, that's good. Alright, I usually leave all of these checked because there are some optimizations for performance and so forth. And this is a full installation, of course. And the KeePass file is going to have a .kdbx extension. So it's good to associate that with KeePass, and I do create a shortcut on my computer for KeePass. So let's go ahead and install it. Alright, so while it's optimizing the performance, we can see that it's already been created on the desktop right here. And let's see, it should take maybe a few more seconds. And there it is. Now let's launch KeePass and go over all the details. I'm going to go over from the creation of a of a KeePass encrypted file, and then the way you add passwords and so on and so forth. All right. My computer is a bit slow, so I'm running quite a lot of things on my host machine right now, the recording software and so forth. And this is just the virtual machine, Windows 10 machine in this case. So bear with me for a second. So here, enable automatic update checks. I'm going to say enable them. All this does is it just checks for updates automatically. It doesn't download or install them automatically. So no need to worry there. It's never going to update without you giving it permission. It's just going to check for them. Alright, so here's what you see when you first install KeePass. You see this window right here, and you see file edit and so forth. So let's create now a new database file. So what that is a file where all your passwords are stored. So I'm going to say new database. Okay, and now where do I want to save it? For now, I'm going to put it in my desktop, but you can save it in your documents, for example. Let me call this my database. Okay, so it's a KDBX file, so let's save it there. Alright, so this is the most important part of setting up your database. This is your master password. This needs to be very, very long. That's the main thing. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be long. So for example, if your password is basketball 123, that's not very good. Even if you change, let's say, the A letter for an @ symbol and so forth, and the L for a 1 or whatever, that is not safe. So the reason is because it's just a word and some numbers, and that is the first attack that hackers would use when they're trying to crack passwords, is they try words and numbers, or words in the beginning, numbers at the end, or a capital letter, or changing the letters for numbers, and so on and so forth. So the main thing is to have the password be a phrase. So if you speak another language, that would be the perfect thing to do, because you can type a phrase in your own language. If the alphabet is the same as English, for example, you can type a phrase in your own language. For example, you can say, today I had breakfast at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. All right, so that's a phrase. That's a pretty interesting, long, easy to remember password. So let's create one. Let's say I'm going to say, this is my KeePass file with horses and windows. Okay, that might sound weird, but it's very memorable. Okay, so look how long it is. So that's the cool thing. KeePass gives you right here how strong your password is. So this password is 39 characters, but it's also 123 bits. You can think of that as a strength. Okay, so for example, I can have a long password but have it be just one letter. Let's say it's just the letter L. If I just do the letter L over and over, it's a long password, right? But it's not very strong, and KeePass can figure that out. It can know when a password is not strong, but it is long. So you don't want that. You want a strong, varied password. So let's just, I'm just going to try the password again. So let me just say, let me do something shorter for this video. I'm going to say, this is my KeePass video. So you can add a number or a capital letter in there, it doesn't matter. But for now, I'm just going to say, this is my KeePass video. That's my password. And if you're not sure what you typed, you can just click here and you'll see it, right? So this is my KeePass video. And of course, you can say like, make KeePass capital, for example, or add a 1 right here. This one is my KeePass video, whatever you want to do. So for now, let me just leave it as, this is my KeePass video. So make sure this password is long, complicated in the sense that it's easy to remember, but it has a lot of variety to it. Okay, so for now it's going to stay, this is my KeePass video. Okay, so it's good enough, but of course that's not the password I'd use for my KeePass manager. Alright, so let's say OK. Now, the database name. This doesn't matter too much. I try to give it the same name as my database, but let's say my database in this case. Alright, description, you can say this is where all my important passwords are. You don't need to give any description. The default username for new entries, this is useful if your username is always, let's say, blue Kiba or whatever you use for your username. You can leave that there, so when you create a new entry, it will automatically fill that. So let me just put blue Kiba here, and that will automatically fill that as the username. And the default database color, if you want to put a color, you can. Let's say blue. Doesn't matter very much. Now, this is the most important part. We're going to go to the security tab. Alright, the security tab is very, very important. So this is talking about how KeePass will encrypt your files. So let's see here. The encryption, the strongest one out there is the AES 256-bit key. This is very important. It's strong and it's quick to encrypt and decrypt it, but not quick enough for a hacker to run a lot of tests on it to try and encrypt and decrypt it. So it's quick enough for the computers to do, but still strong enough for the security purposes. So that's the strongest one out there, and it's used a lot. So, but you can choose others. I wouldn't. I would stay with AES, but you can choose others if you'd like. This one right here, the key derivation function, I still keep AES selected. And what does this mean? So this is the transition. So the more iterations the hardware, you can read it right here. The more iterations there are, then that makes it harder for a dictionary or guessing attack. So if the user, if the hacker needs to try and guess your password, KeePass, what it does is it pretty much encrypts the file this many times. So right now it's set to 60,000 times. That might seem like a lot, but computers can do that in less than a second. So what I do is I check on my computer, what would it take for my computer to crack to encrypt my KeePass file in 1 second. So let's click that. So in 1 second, my computer can do 4 million iterations. So if you want to have just a 1 second delay when you open your KeePass file, which is just nothing, right? You get 4 million iterations of the password manager trying to encrypt the file 4 million times pretty much. So that way it's secure. It only takes a second from your computer to do that, and it's also very safe. So don't set this number too high, because if you're decrypting your file in a computer, let's say it's not your computer, in some other public computer that's older, or if you put the file in your phone and use a KeePass app to decrypt it, it's also done offline. Your phone is not as fast as your computer, right? So that might take, if it takes 1 second on the computer, it might take 10 on the phone. So if you're using KeePass from your phone a lot, you probably don't want to set this to 4 million, right? You might set it to, let's say, 2 million. But don't leave it at the default setting of 60,000. That's way too low. So for now, I'm going to leave this at 4 million. All right? So you can test it, of course. And yeah, that took 1.039 seconds. So it didn't take too long to do. All right, let's go to the compression. I leave the compression set to gzip. So that way the file is compressed and it's very good performance and doesn't take much space. Recycle bin, I do use a recycle bin. So the recycle bin for your passwords, it's contained within the KeePass file. So even if you delete the password, it won't go to the recycle bin of Windows. It will stay within KeePass. Everything is secure. All the memory that KeePass uses is encrypted, so nothing will get out of the software. And then advanced. Here I just, the limit number of history items, I leave it to 10, just in case I forget a password that I used before. I just want to have it so I know it. And then the limit history size per entry, I leave that to 6 megabytes. I mean, that's not too much, but it will take, it will never get to 6 megabytes if it's only limiting the history to 10 entries, okay? And then the master key, I don't check this, but I do change my master key once in a while. I don't necessarily change it every 182 days, but I change it, let's say, once a year. But I don't check this to have KeePass to tell me to change my master password. I just change it myself. And then you can also force the changing of the master key for the next time. Okay, so let me just say okay. And then the emergency sheet, if you want to print it out, it just has some questions for you to write down and keep this in a safe place in case you forget it. So that's very important, right? If you forget your master key password, you will not be able to get it back. That's it. The password is gone. You cannot get it back. Okay, so I'm going to skip that. So right now we've got everything set right here, and we have a sample entry that's been created, a username, a password, and a URL for the sample entry. So let's see what we can do more over here. Alright, so if you go here on the My Database, you can see that passwords are sorted under General, Windows, Network, and so forth. I tend to not use any of these. I just keep all my passwords under My Database, not sorted. But if you want to sort them, you can. So let's see here. We have two sample entries. But so how do we create an entry? Well, you can go right here. You see that Add Entry button? You can click right there. And then it says, what's the title? Well, let's say this is my Yahoo, for example, password. And my username, you can see it already filled it out as Blue Kiba because I said that that's my preferred username. You can change it if you'd like. And here the password. KeePass already created a password for me, right? So if I want to just leave it as that, I can just leave it. But if I want to make it more complicated, I can click right here where it says Generate Password. Password Generator. Okay, so let's say I want my password to have an underline. I want it to have some special characters. I want it to be not 20 characters, but let's say I want it to be 30 characters. Okay, and then I say OK, and there it is. Here's my new password. It's 30 characters long, very complicated. If you click here to see it, look how complicated that is. It's completely random, right? So it's completely uncrackable, non-dictionary attackable, and so forth. So for now, let's just leave that as our password for Yahoo, and then the URL, if you want to enter it, I usually do, and just put it in here, https www.yahoo.com. And then the notes, I say this is for my personal account or whatever you want to put in. Okay, you can also say whether this password expires so that KeePass can remind you to change it. I don't usually do that. I usually just say OK right here. Okay, so here's my Yahoo password. And if I want to log into Yahoo, I can just right click here and copy the password, or copy the username and then paste it in there. The cool thing is once you copy a password to paste it, you see right here KeePass gives you only 12 seconds for you to go paste the password. And then it deletes the clipboard, right? So you can't paste it again. So right here, 12 seconds had passed. I cannot paste that password anymore. Even if I wanted to, I cannot paste it anymore, right? So it clears the clipboard. So that way, if you forget if you copy a password, paste it somewhere, and then later forget, and someone pastes and gets your password, that way KeePass is safe in that regard. So what else can we do? Well, there is a very cool feature of KeePass where it auto-types your password. It doesn't always work, so that's why I generally just should say Control-C to copy my password, right? And so the 12 seconds starts, or Control-B to copy the username, right? So I just copy and paste it. If you want to go to the URL of the website, that's why I enter the URL. I can just go here and say open the URL. So again, I'm right clicking on the entry, and the URL, I say open, copy to clipboard, whatever you want to do, copy the password, copy the username, and whatnot. If you want to change the entry, you can edit it right here. You can change whatever, change, and so on and so forth. You can look at the history. The auto type feature, I don't use it that much, but you can. What happens is it auto types your passwords. In this case, it's going to type username. It's going to press the tab key, and then it's going to type password, and then press enter. That way, it's just, you can just press one key and it will do everything for you. I don't usually use this because it doesn't properly work in every website. Also, a very important thing on autotype. If you do use autotype, I would highly recommend you click the 2-channel autotype obfuscation button. What this does is, instead of just copying the password and pasting it into your website, what it does is it copies parts of the password and pastes them, and then the other parts, it just types them for you. It's simulated key presses, right? It simulates the keyboard. So that way it's typing some and copying and pasting some, and if you have a keylogger that's looking at what you're typing, it might not be able to look at what you're copying, or vice versa. If there's some virus that's looking at what's in your clipboard, it might not be able to see what you're typing. So that way it adds an added layer of security. But again, I don't use autotype too much, so I usually leave that on just in case. So if I'm using autotype, I have that turned on. It doesn't work very well all the time, but it's pretty good for most of the time. Now, a very important thing to do right here, under our tools, database tools, and database maintenance, there are some cool things here. So the history, I leave that as 365 days, so it deletes the history entries older than a year. I like to have that there just to clean up the files. And the plugin data, I don't have any plugins. Okay, there are plugins you can use for KeePass to help you with the software. I tend not to use them because I don't necessarily trust whoever wrote the plugin, right? I do trust KeePass as the software. That's the one that got the audit, but not the plugins. So I don't tend to use plugins. Another thing is when you go under the database settings right here, you can see the whole thing we filled before. You can change whatever you want, security and so on and so forth. All right. And the most important part is the options. Under tools, options. This is how you set up KeePass to work for how you like it. This now is dealing with how the program works. It doesn't have to do with your database, with your passwords, right? It has to do with how the program works, whether it starts when Windows starts, whether when you close it, does it save automatically, and things like that. So for example, let's say I added this, I never saved, right? I haven't clicked save here, and I just want to close the software. It's going to say, what do you want to do? So I can say automatically save when I close or lock the database, and that way it will automatically save if I forget to save it. But you can change that in the tools. So here's my database file. This is a file that you can put in a flash drive, you can put in Google Drive, you can put wherever you want. It's the encrypted file with all your passwords. See, it's only 2 kilobytes. Of course, we only have 3 passwords there now, but if you have more, it's still only a few kilobytes, maybe megabytes at the most. So that's the KeePass file, and this is the KeePass program. So let's open it again with our password. Let's see if I remember what the password was. I think I said, this is my KeePass video. Yep, that's it. All right, so this file right here is the one that's being opened here with all my passwords. So let's go under options and security right here. I do click this to lock the workspace after I haven't used KeePass for 5 minutes or 300 seconds. I also do click this, so global user inactivity for 240. I usually make this both 300. Okay, and then the clipboard auto clear option is 12 seconds. That's good enough for me. I keep it as 12 seconds, and I don't set my entries to expire. Now let's see, what do I change here? You can do whatever you like here. Okay, this is a personal preference, but I'm just showing you guys what I do. Okay, right here I click this, exit the workspace after the specified time. Don't just lock KeePass, but also exit it. That way it logs and exits. Lock it when there's a remote control mode change. If you're remote controlling into your computer, just an added layer of security. Lock it when the computer is being suspended. Lock it when you're changing the user. All right. Let's see. I don't like locking it. I usually like when it exits completely, so I do check this box. And I do also check this box. It won't work for everyone, but it's an added layer of security to enter master key on secure desktop. So a lot of the key loggers won't work on secure desktop, so they won't be able to look at your key presses of your master password. Okay, let's go under policy. I leave those checked, and then interface. I do say minimize to tray instead of taskbar, but I don't generally minimize it, so I'll leave that off. Now this is a cool one, drop to background after copying data to the clipboard. So every time you copy a password to go and paste it, KeePass will automatically minimize and then your website will show up. I'll show you that in a second. Okay. Minimize main window after copying data to clipboard. Yeah, that's the same thing. Actually, yeah, let's pick that one. Okay, that looks good. And you can play with these, whatever you like more, how the interface works, right? And that's good enough for me. All right, integration. So this right here, I tend to delete these. This is the auto type stuff. I don't use it again, as I said. I tend to just delete that. It's the shortcuts for the auto type. And I also tend to delete this. And you can choose to run KeePass at Windows Startup. I choose not to. I run it when I'd like to run it. And then advanced. Let's see here. The auto type, the way it sends it, file input and output. Yep, that looks good to me. All right, so I'm gonna say okay, and then I'm gonna click on save here. So that's how you save it. So now let's look at how you'd go and type in your password for Yahoo. So this, of course, is not an account that I created. We just made this up, right? I haven't created an account with the username BlueKeybo and with this password. But let's assume that I have. So let's go to Yahoo and try that out. All right, so yahoo.com. Okay, let me click on sign in. All right, so here we need our username. So what you can do is you can go to KeePass, Control B, or right click and copy the username. And as you saw, KeePass automatically minimized. So now you can just paste your username right here, and it's BlueKeybo. We'll say next. Yeah, it won't recognize it, but let me just, I don't know what to type because it won't recognize it. But let's just go ahead and try this on Facebook. Because now we have the username and the password that we can enter, right? So we can enter the password and the username. So let me copy the username, paste it right there. And let me go back to KeePass, and I'm going to copy the password. So the password is Control C, right? Copy. And then you paste it right there. Of course, this won't work because I'm not a user there with those username and passwords. But here's the cool thing. If you'd like for KeePass to auto-type everything, you just click on the email right here, and then go to KeePass and press Control V. Okay, so Control V does an auto-type entry, is this perform auto-type. So I'm going to click Control V on Yahoo. Okay, I've clicked on the email, right? So I'm going to go to my password manager and click Control V. And KeePass will automatically type it. And as you saw, it was jumping around, right? It wasn't just typing it in a straight line because we have enabled the auto-type two-factor obfuscation. Let me see if that's what it was called. Yeah, the two-channel auto-type obfuscation, which means some parts of it was copied, some parts of it was key presses, simulated key presses. But if we uncheck that, then you'll see it's going to type it into a linear fashion. It just all it's typed through simulated key presses. Okay, so of course I don't have an account on Facebook there. So that's the general idea of KeePass. This is how I set it up. So if you'd like an extra, let's see, for example, if I delete these two entries, for example, to see where they go in the recycle bin right here, and you can delete them from there as well, and they just get deleted, right? So nothing goes into your Windows recycle bin. Everything is included within KeePass. Let's say I want to create another account. Let me just say new, add entry, and let me just say we're doing the Facebook. This is just to give you guys another run at this. So the username is BlueKeybo, let's say account or whatever. Now the password, I can leave it as it is. It looks pretty complicated to me, but if you don't like that, you can open the password generator, put more special files, underlines. You can, if you like this, if you always keep doing the same thing here, like 30 characters long and so forth, you can save this as your own profile. So let me just call it my passwords. So this is my passwords profile that I use, right? So that way it's always there as the default. So the 30 characters long and so forth, but it's, of course, it's a different password every time. So here it is, the URL for Facebook, facebook.com, and then some notes if you want to put them. If you don't, it's okay, and then you just say okay, and there it is. The Facebook has been created. This is, of course, all searchable. If I have a lot of passwords and I can't find them, I can just type Yahoo, right, and there it is, or Facebook, and there it is. So that way it's very simple to find passwords, and the notes are right here. Right. So here's another cool feature of KeePass. You can also add a file to store with your KeePass manager, right, with your database. So in this case, I add like a file that has like my social security, or a copy of my identification card, or a copy of my tax returns, or whatever it is. Something really important that you want to have with you at all times. A copy of your ID is the most popular one. So let's say here I have a file I've created. It's called important documents. There's nothing in it, but let's just put something in it. There it is. Something is in it now. So I'm going to have this file. It's a very important document, and I want to store it with KeePass at all time. Here's what I do. Let me create a new entry in this case. I'm just going to call it important files. There's going to be no username on it, no password on it. And the notes, I'm just going to say very important files are stored here, or whatever you want to put, okay? So let's save that, right? So this important files, it's like an entry, but it doesn't have any username, any password, anything like that. So let me just add right here. It looks like it has a password, but it doesn't. So let's add right here a file. So let's go and edit this, right? So you can go under Advanced, and right here you can attach a file. So this file that you attach will get encrypted together with the database of KeePass. So the important document right here. And yeah, that's good enough, UTF-8. The way it's encoded, I'm going to say okay. You can put an image file, a document file, text file, whatever it is. And it will be stored, a PDF. It will be stored with your KeePass database. So I put it in there. I'll say okay. Now look at this. So now I can delete the file, right? It's already in my KeePass. Let's just empty the recycle bin. It's gone. So right here, if I go to attachments, here's my file, and when I click on it, guess what? It opens from KeePass' own editor. You can open it outside, but that way, by opening it inside KeePass's editor, it's in encrypted memory. So that way it's not leaving the KeePass ecosystem, if you will. So right here, it's the something that I typed and so on. KeePass has an editor for documents like this and for images. If there's any file that KeePass cannot open, it will tell you that it will open somewhere else outside of KeePass. But be careful, that means it will leave traces in memory, right? So it will leave temporary files and so on. So you got to be careful with those. So if you wanted to save this, right, you can save the attached files if you want it on desktop, and that way they will leave KeePass. But I'm just going to leave it in KeePass right now, save it, and that's it. And let's see, now that we added a file, how big our database got. It's only 2.5 kilobytes, right? So on my personal database, I have thousands of passwords that I've created with KeePass, and my database, I think, is about 5 megabytes, something like that. Yeah, it's in the megabytes. It's not that big. And this file right here, you can put online, you can put on your USB and download the portable version of KeePass so you can open it. You can put it on OneDrive, you can put it anywhere you'd like, on your parents' computer, wherever you think you're going to use it. The one thing to keep in mind is if you change the file, all the other files will not get updated, right? That's the drawback of not having the cloud. But what I do is every month or so, I update all my KeePass files manually. I just go to my Google Drive, update that, and my USB drive, update that. That's the two places that I have, or OneDrive, and update that. And that way I can just have 3 or 4 places updated, one local, one on the cloud, one somewhere else on a USB, right? So that way, if something happens to one of the files, your passwords are not lost. Just keep in mind, do not forget your master password. I would not write it down to remember it. Just try to remember it. Just do something that's natural, right? Something that is memorable. For example, I like Windows, I don't like Linux, for example, right? I love Linux, but that's an example of a master password. And you can add a number in there, or you can add some capital letters in there. So something long like that, 30 characters or so on, it's very safe and secure. Okay, so that's it about this video. I hope you guys got an idea of KeePass, how it works, how to set it up, or at least how I set it up, and why I hope I've convinced you that KeePass is the safest, most secure password manager out there. And for the little inconveniences that you get for not having the cloud, you get a ton of added extra security and peace of mind. So I hope you guys liked the video. If you like it, click subscribe or like or whatever you want to do, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.